Good evening, everybody. On behalf of the School of Sport, Carnegie faculty here at Leeds Beckett University, and on behalf of Sports Coach UK and the REACH campaign, as this is a partnership event. And we're really delighted to welcome you here for this evening's Carnegie Conversation and the final Carnegie Conversation of the 2016 series. So what a fantastic panel to end the series on. We're very humbled, very privileged to have such a fantastic panel tonight, starting with Marieanne Spacey, Assistant England Football Women's Manager, Paula Dunn, Head Coach of the GB Paralympic Team, Shelley Alexander, the BBC Editor for Sport, and Salma Bi, who is an award-winning cricketer and founder of a coaching organisation. So we are really humbled and privileged to have you all in one room with us tonight, so thank you for coming. This is our fourth Carnegie Conversation of the year, and the aim of the Carnegie Conversations is to engage and inspire the Leeds and wider regional communities. And so far we've had 35 speakers from sport, education, events, hospitality, and we've had about 1,600 delegates, so it's a really popular, well-attended series. And of course, we couldn't have done this without the support of Richard Kramer and his front row legal team. So there's a very big thank you to you for supporting that and enabling that. When I go to work every day, I really enjoy going to work every day because I love sport. I love watching it. I love playing it. I love researching it. I love writing about it. So to go to work, for me, and to work in this environment, as I'm sure a lot of you could probably relate to, it's a real buzzy atmosphere, and I love it. It's not a chore to go to work. And that's because not only do I love sport, I get to work in a supportive school with supportive colleagues, and I get to work in an environment where I think that we are leaders in coaching research. And I don't mean just gender equality in coaching. I'm saying all areas of coaching. Myself, my colleagues, I really respect the work that we're doing around coaching research in general. And part of that, the reason why I think that we are doing some fantastic work is that we have cultivated some really fantastic relationships, not just with other academics, researchers, colleagues, but with policymakers in sport, coaches, coach educators, and athletes and participants. And that's because we share this vision and this goal of having impactful work and having an impact on practice. And we've got a fantastic audience here tonight, and that was one of the aims for me for doing this event, is having that mixture of representation, staff, students, coaches, coach educators, policymakers, etc. Because even though we do have differences in our interests, we are working towards improving the value of coaches and the representation of coaches in some form. So I'm very excited about tonight and the event. For those of you that are attending for the first time, the format will be that we'll have the session for about 45 minutes, and then it will go over to question and answer to yourselves. So if you do want to ask a question, feel free to put your hand up and we can share the microphone, because it'll be going on YouTube. And we're very lucky because the event will be is being recorded and will be broadcast on BBC Radio Leeds.
Good evening and welcome to a West Yorkshire Sports Special in conjunction with Leeds Beckett University. I'm Shelley Alexander, the editorial lead for women's sport at the BBC, and tonight we're broadcasting from Headingley Carnegie Stadium as part of Leeds Beckett University's Carnegie Conversations. And our focus today is on women as sports coaches. Over the next hour, we'll be discussing why, despite their expertise, women for the most part remain peripheral figures on the coaching landscape. It's estimated that only about 18% of the coaching workforce are female. And when we look at high performance coaches, that's only 10%. So plenty to talk about this evening about why are the reasons for that, what are the challenges, and what we can come up with to face these challenges. And I have an esteemed panel to discuss that with. So I'd like to introduce Paula Dunn, UK Athletics Paralympic head coach, Salma Bi, who was the first Asian Muslim woman to play county cricket for Worcestershire and runs the cricket coaching company Sporting Pathways. And Marieanne Spacey is the coaching assistant to the England women's football manager Mark Sampson and is also responsible for developing female coaches within our national game. Ladies and gentlemen, our panel. Well, let's hear first from our panel about their coaching journeys. Paula, how did you get started?
Well, I never actually intended to do any coaching. To be very honest, I was an athlete. I finished, I was 29, I had a 4-year-old son. So I was actually just going to be a mum and work full time. I was working as a sports development officer. It was pre-lottery, so I'm one of those unfortunate people that had to work, train, and then compete for my country. So it was quite intense. My coach had asked me to look after a group of girls for 6 weeks. I said I would do it for 6 weeks, and I was still there 15 years later. So I kind of stumbled into it, but I found it thoroughly enjoyable. I realised that I'd picked up a lot of knowledge over the years as being an athlete, just being around other athletes and just learning what worked best for me, and then actually trying to just put that information out and see how athletes received it. So I did that. I was quite successful. I had a number of girls who went on to represent the country. I had a guy who went to the Paralympics and got a silver medal. And then I was still working at this time. I was doing this totally voluntary. By this time I had son number 2. So it was very much a juggling act. And I was also working on the Commonwealth Games, getting ready for Manchester 2002. Then a job came up in Birmingham. Bearing in mind, I'm based in Manchester. It was a 3-year contract to lead on the talent identification. I remember saying to my mum, I'm going to go for a job in Birmingham. She looked at me like I had 2 heads. And I said it was only a 3-year contract. I was in a permanent job, well-paid job in Manchester. And I just thought, if an opportunity comes along, I would definitely want you to try it. So I went for the job. Fortunately, I got it. Or unfortunately, my mum was panicking, but I've still got a job. And so literally that's how it started. I kind of didn't have a big plan. I didn't have a master plan. I kind of stumbled into it, realised I was relatively good at it. I also knew I had a lot to learn. And then I was working for the governing body. And that's really when I started learning different areas of athletics in terms of identifying talent, selecting teams. I went on to coach at Commonwealth Games in Melbourne, World Juniors, European Juniors, World Youth. So I gained a lot of experience along the way. But it wasn't easy. I had to just go through those times where you have to make those big decisions. Do I stay in Manchester? Do I then try and commute to Birmingham? I ended up commuting and staying in Birmingham for 2 days a week, working 3 days. I arranged it with my employer, so I was really fortunate. But also then that meant I had to rely on my partner to help with the kids. I had to rely on my family. But I've got I was really fortunate. But there was been some tough decisions. I went away when my second son was 10 months old to a World Juniors. And I remember a lot of people looked at me very odd because my son was 10 months old. He was not left unattended. He was with my husband and my family. I just didn't leave him unattended. So you do get those looks. You get it from male and female because you've left a young baby. So there's been some challenges, but generally just very enjoyable. And that's kind of my career.
Thank you, Paula. Salma, can you tell us about your journey?
My journey started just by getting into loving the sport of cricket. I remember growing up with my dad and my brothers and playing in the back garden, and for a young Asian girl it's not something that you normally hear about. And I just remember I attended a girls' school and I was captain for the side. We went away to play a game, and just there when one of the county coaches approached me and said, "You should be playing for a county." And I was like, "I don't even play for a club, do women even play cricket?" And it's just, at first, that's when they said, "You know what, we want to put you forward for trials." And throughout the whole journey I had struggles and a lot of obstacles where I had to face up against my own family to actually tell them, I know this is not the norm for an Asian girl to actually get into sports, but I had it in me. I just felt like, no, I want to do something different and I want to make a difference. I got selected for Warwickshire County before I was actually in for Worcestershire, and it was a lesson for me because I didn't get selected to play games because I didn't have the training, and this came down to the correct coaching. I didn't have the commitment where I didn't get coached enough, where I saw the girls, they had a full kit and they were all prepped for their games. And I didn't have that because I probably didn't have that support at home. It was later, just after many years, where I said, actually, you know what, I'm going to trial again. And this is when I went for the last date for Worcestershire County, and I turned up for the last date and they was like, "Okay, we'll have a look at you." And I had a bit of a batter bowl and they were like, "You know what, we've got you selected." And I didn't realise at that point I actually made history because I was the first Muslim Asian girl to play for Worcestershire County, and this is quite a big deal because I had 4 different cricket clubs asking me on the same night that you're going to come and play for us. We're looking for an off-spin bowler, and being Asian, you're going to be really good at playing bowling spin. So I was selected, and I didn't realise, I've actually made an impact not only for myself, for my community, and for a lot of Asian girls out there. I'm just becoming a role model. I went on to win 5 national awards, award-winning cricketer, that's what they said. And it was nice to know that, look, I've done something for myself. In one season, I was actually being approached by up to 7-8 teams. I was a member for the MCC, which is Marieanne Cricket Club in London, members only, and you go and play alongside of the England cricketers. And I remember Charlotte Edwards, as the captain of the England team, saying to me, "Salma, just do what you're doing because one day someone will see it." I've had the privilege to train with the England side, and it's not something that you can sit back and not talk about. And it's nice to have that experience. And I thought, actually, wow, I've done quite a bit for myself. I've played county level. I've managed to go all over the country and just perform and enjoy taking wickets, enjoy winning trophies for my team. And what do I do now? Now I've got to think about what I didn't have and the support I didn't have. If I started younger, I probably was going to be playing for an international side. And that's when I thought, you know what, I had a word with one of my friends, and she was an ex-England goalkeeper. And I said, we've both done quite a bit in our field, so let's set up a sporting company. And this is where we decided, let's do Sporting Pathways. And within 2-3 years, we set up events, and these were events for all abilities. We introduced indoor T10 Cricket World Cup. We basically asked girls to sign up, and we put them into teams. They get to represent a country and come along and play. We introduced World Dodgeball, and we set 2 world records, where is indoor futsal, which is 5-a-side football. And the first record was girls turning up playing for 10 hours straight. And a team in down south, they tried to beat us by 10 minutes. So we thought, okay, we'll set a higher record. And now we have a record of 20 hours straight. So to do these events and to raise profiles, to have the impact and to realise how many girls actually are attracted. When I heard about girls were turning up from Manchester, Yorkshire, London, and heard about these events, we were like, wow, we were just sitting in a room and talking about we're going to do a community event and just a small event. We didn't realise how much of an impact it will have. And we had people who never played any sports before, but they loved it because the social interaction, teamwork that it gave, and confidence and involvement, that it gave them. They could go back and talk about it and say, you know what, we want to carry on and we want to do sports. And I think that's where the coaching side of things came. We set up a project called Get Her in the Game, and over time we looked at talented players, and we thought, let's talk about them, get them into the media, let's raise the profile. I remember one girl, and she was only 18, and she was scouted for the States, and at that time her family didn't support her, and she was an 11-a-side player, and she's a really good player. And now it's like, after we promoted her, family said, look, if you had that chance now, we would let you go. And I think it comes down to someone else pushing you sometimes, and it's nice that we've built that framework, and we want to encourage that.
Thank you. Now, Marieanne, like Paula, like Salma, you started as a player and moved into coaching.
I did a very successful playing career, and I literally came off the pitch and went into the dugout, and on reflection it was probably a big mistake doing that. So my coaching journey really started, and it kind of taught me a lesson of really understand what you're going into, because I wasn't a coach, I was still a player. My mindset was very much about playing and being being that side of the white line rather than this side of the white line. So the first couple of seasons was quite difficult for me, because I didn't understand coaching, I didn't understand facilitating, and I just thought, why can't that player do that? Because that's what I would expect from myself. So why can't she do it? So I kind of took a bit of time away from the game as such in terms of coaching, but I went into coach education and facilitation, and started to work again with 5 to 11-year-olds in the skills programme. I worked with a men's team, I worked with an under-16 boys team, I worked with the blind lads in the B1 England squad, and it was all experiences of understanding coaching rather than sort of putting myself into a position again where I felt I was letting the people down that I was meant to be looking after. And then from all those experiences, I was offered the job with the England women's senior team. And I thought I was ready then. I thought, I've done a lot of groundwork now, and I don't see myself as a player anymore. I kind of got that over a few years back. But I know there's a value to not only the technical side of the game and the tactical side of the game, but being a female in a female environment and with a sports team, a high-performing team. Having been in that situation, I understand what the players are seeing, what the players are going through. So the value that it's not always a technical, tactical value, although there is that side to it. It's also the female perspective of players working and being in World Cup tournaments and European Championship qualifiers. So I kind of bring a real sort of female element to the squad amongst a group of male coaches. But the most important people are the players and how we develop them as people as well as footballers.
Now, Paula, Leeds Beckett research that Dr. Leanne Moore has done here found that the average lifespan of a woman coach is only 5 years. And some of that is because they find it harder to gain acceptance and respect within their organisations. Did you find that difficult within UK athletics?
I think because I was an ex-international athlete, I think the doors opened a lot quicker and a lot easier. So I think I was identified as doing some good work as a coach. But I'm not naive. I think that was really on the back of that. I've just finished my career. I'd been to some major events. I'd won some medals, so people were interested to see what happened. So in terms of UK athletics, I think they've got a female legacy course. So they are quite. They are doing some good work, but the reality is when you're a volunteer in a club, and it is tough, because the reality is I was the only female coach at the track. When I was growing up, there was no female coaches at all. So you can't, and the reason why I stuck at it is because I just felt very comfortable in that environment. So I wasn't worried. I didn't think anybody was judging me. When I went further up, when you go into, under 18s and under 20s, absolutely I was getting judged. And you knew they were doing it, and I'm quite feisty. I've got 4 brothers, so it doesn't really bother me working with boys, because I've grown up with them all. And but when you go in there and they're trying to ask you questions and technical questions or ask you about a specific drill, so they're testing you, and then when you answer the questions, then they're fine about it. But it is a tough one, and I think without being an athlete prior to that, I think it would have been really difficult. I think it would have been easier. I could see it being quite easy just to walk away. You know, if you feel like you're the only person, you know, in that club and you're the only female. I had the luxury of being in that club for 20 years, so I knew everybody. So it is definitely challenging. It is, and I don't think we should actually underestimate how difficult it is. You know, I sit in a board meeting and I'm the only female in that board. I'm the only black person on that board. So it's, you know, there's some big obstacles to go through. But hopefully, you know, somebody said to me when I got the job, "Oh, you're a role model," and I panicked because I thought, oh my God, that means if I fail, that means no woman or no black person will ever get a job. And then I had to calm down and realise, you know, just do the job. Just do the job. And I've been doing it for 4 years, and obviously we're going into Rio. So hopefully that's successful. But it is, you have to have a bit of a thick skin, and you just have to have real confidence, you know, not a massive ego, but real confidence in what you're doing.
Salma, you don't work within perhaps constraints, as some people might see them, of a national governing body. You have your own coaching company, but are there still challenges for you to overcome?
Oh yes, I mean, our company is a community interest company, so we set up events where we had no funding. And we set up these events in the hope that it's a risk. Yes, we're going to introduce this big event. Is it going to be pulled off? At the same time, we thought, okay, let's push forward where we raise for charities as well. I work as a hemodialysis nurse when I'm not doing my sports. So I thought, okay, let's do some health education and let's talk about the Autistic Society or cerebral palsy, something that people don't hear of, and it's something that does relate to sports, because how we have the ability to do what we want, we can get up out of bed and not think about it, whereas someone with a physical disability has to struggle, and it's with daily activities. So this is where our sporting ideas came through. Yes, it is difficult. I mean, one of my colleagues, she supported me really well with her funding applications, and we did get turned around a lot, and they turned down. They just said, well, what is the need for you to set up a world record event? What is the reason? Why do you want to encourage girls to get together? Why can't they just join an academy or a sports club and just play from there? And they didn't see that, look, we want to raise this social impact, we want to create that buzz, we want to get that hype, and we want to set a challenge basically so we can do this every year. I mean, my colleague, she supported me quite well and she's done well herself, and only recently she helped out with the Bermuda cricket club, and she was out in Bermuda, and just recently she was actually in the T20 World Cup finals, and she had the privilege to be invited to be guesting there. So she's brought back a lot of experience for me and knowledge, and it's good that, you know, we are trying to create more contacts, and again, it's all voluntary. I love what I do, and it's not something that I just know that, yes, sports doesn't pay, and that's something that a lot of people don't realise, especially for women. It doesn't pay, but we do it because we've got that passion and it's in our blood to perform.
Marieanne, with my Women in Football hat on, and I started Women in Football about 8 years ago, I know from talking to women who work in the game, they often say that they have to be, or they feel they have to be, twice as good as the next man, as the next man, just to get started, you know, before they even sort of get to the start line. Do you recognise that sentiment, even if you haven't actually sort of felt it yourself?
Yeah, I can certainly understand it, and I always look at the experiences of female coaches going on a coaching course, and they walk into the room and there's 23 males and 1 female in the room, and it's straight away you can imagine them going, what do I need to do to be part of the group? And I kind of look at it and go, no, actually, what do they need to do to feel that you're well, not for them to, but for them not to accept you, but to recognise that you're here for a reason, and that's to make you better. And so we started off with more sort of female-only courses, because I know there's a fear and an intimidation, but for some females to go on courses, of mixed courses. So we said we'll get some female-only courses and build the confidence to say, look, you're in a good environment, because it's not just the again, we talk about the technical and the tactical and everything you learn from there, but it's about self-belief, and it's about being the best person that you can be. And if that means that we put on the courses for females to attend to start to grow that confidence and to grow that self-belief, for me, somebody that's come from a women's only course to then feel confident and have the belief to go on to a mixed course and I say hold their own, but actually teach the lads a few things. And you sit on courses, and I'm currently on my pro licence, and there's 25 males on there and myself. And I think I have every right to be on this course, and I have every reason to share my opinions and to give my thoughts and to question the guys and to challenge the guys, because I'm in a role that, in some respects, they aspire to. I'm working with an international squad, so they could, in essence, be aspiring to be me. So I'm quite confident that, in my thoughts on the game of football, because I've been in it for so long, but I'm also quite passionate to ensure that every female that comes onto our courses or is involved in football knows the value and the worth of themselves to be there, so that they're not intimidated and not fearful of making themselves better, which is ultimately what we want. Better female coaches, more female qualified coaches, and more confident coaches, female coaches, to go into, whether it's the women's game, into the men's game, or stay in grassroots football and just be the best coach for the kids to grow and learn and develop with.
I know that last season, Emma Hayes, the Chelsea ladies manager, was the only female coach in the FA Women's Super League 1. And of course, we all punched the air when she won not only the FA Cup, but the league as well. Go, Emma. Yeah. Paula, you mentioned that you were quite surprised when you were told you were a role model. How important, particularly in terms of high-performance coaches, is it for young women who might be just starting out as coaches to see you as the most senior woman coach in UK athletics?
God, no pressure, Shelley. Thanks. I'll sleep well tonight. I think it goes back to what Marieanne said. I think you've got to have faith in your own ability. And also, you will get challenged. And if I can inspire, other females within track and field, I mean, we are in a, obviously, it's a mixed gender, right from club through to international. But if we can encourage more women, and if they could see my pathway, and that gives them some encouragement, I think that's really, really positive. But do I see myself as a role model? No, I just see myself as Paula, trying to do the best job possible, and the fact that I'm a woman and it could inspire another woman, that's just a bonus. But when everybody tells me this, it's my brothers certainly don't see me as a role model. I should kind of like to say, but yeah, I mean, to me, it's just when you're there and you're in charge, people see that, and if that then gives them courage and faith that when I'm talking to a team, it's male and females, young and old. If that then makes the athlete sat there in front of me think, actually, my pathway, that could be me in 20, 30 years, and that's really positive. Because obviously we never had a female head coach, who's always been males. And like Marieanne says, I think we do bring something really special to the role. I think everybody's always telling us what we don't bring to the role. But, I bring a lot of qualities that a man just doesn't have. I can sit down with an athlete. I can be tough with them. I can be gentle with them. They'll cry. I can have all these experiences that I've grown up with. Being a mother, just don't knock it, because being a mother, you learn lots of skills. So I can sit down with athletes and actually, forget all the running and the jumping. It's like, look at the person. And I think women generally are really good at that, and that's a big quality that I use all the time. And people might think that's a bit soft, but actually when you're at the start line, you need somebody who believes in what you can do. So I think sometimes we're always trying to think, what characteristics do we have that are male? It's like, I'm never going to try. I've gone with my own skill sets. I know what I'm good at. And things I'm not good at, I'll pick up and learn about them. But I actually value the fact that I can bring lots of things to the table and have different insights that when I'm speaking to my colleagues, they would never even think of. So I think there's just big positives about being a woman in a role, and we shouldn't underplay them.
And it's interesting because in the Leeds Beckett University research, Holly Bees, a tennis coach, said that it's not only women with their empathetic skills, as well as all their other skills, that we are missing out on in coaching. It's men who've got those skills as well. And you've only got to look at the allegations facing British cycling at the moment to see that a diverse workforce, not only men, women in terms of BAME as well, but in terms of the different emotional skill sets that you have is really important. As we're in Leeds, and I know he was only here for a short time, but I always remember Brian Clough, who once told me to shut up, Miss Busy. But I remember his European Cup winning team. He used to say that I put my arm round Ian Robertson and I kicked Larry Lloyd up the bum. And again, it's knowing how you treat each athlete and what part of their emotional journey needs a different mindset. And I think that's sometimes missed in our coaching landscape. Selma, I know your role model was Shane Warne, and you didn't have any specific bowling coaching. So you watched him and you modelled yourself on him, and you've got this great action. Has that, though, really made you determined with the women and girls that you now coach that they will get the full range of coaching?
I think the opportunities have definitely increased. I mean, the facilities and how much women, sports is being broadcasted. We definitely need to push forward. And just remember, if I'm idolising a male cricketer, it means that I didn't know nothing about female sports. I didn't know that female cricket even existed. And I remember I just realised, okay, I've done it for myself. I've learnt how to bowl the off spin with the leg spin action. So a lot of people say, you know how to bowl the googly. Yes, I can. I have a lot of variations, and I realised I actually took more wickets for the men's side than I did for the women's side at one point. I thought along this journey, I'm not just thinking about what I'm doing for myself. If I've broken barriers as an Asian girl, I need to set that path for other girls out there. And when I went to my coaching courses, I did my level 1, and there was 3 of us, three females that were on the course. When I did my level 2, I was the only girl actually on that course. And then I did my club coach assessment. It opened a lot of doors for me because I was not only coaching at my club side, and I was developing the 11-a-side team. I was going out to primary schools. I was giving talks. I was actually being approached by girls who never played sports in their life, and they were actually saying, well, we need to talk about, we've got family going through domestic violence and just confidence and mental health issues. So I didn't realise that it wasn't just sports that people were approaching me for. It was more confidence and social involvement. So just from there, I just went on to say, okay, as a coach, it's quite important. Yes, definitely you want to be a role model, push it forward. And if I wasn't going to do it, who is? And I do remember there's times when I went to primary schools and I saw young potential girls, and I thought, you know what, I really need to get them into a club. I need to get them in for trials for academy. I remember knocking the parents' doors and saying, well, I'm the coach, I'm the female coach, I'll look after them, and they're in good hands, and if I've done it, they can do it, and I can see it in them, and I want them to start early. I did get feedback where they said, no, well, they've got to go out to pray, and no, why should they do it out of school hours? They do it enough at school. So these are, obstructions that you sort of face, and you think, okay, over time, let's hope we can push more girls getting into sports, and definitely we need more coaches to push it forward.
Now, Marieanne, I know you're doing the keynote speech at Kick It Out's racial game event for women shortly. That's being held at Birmingham City. And we've just heard that one of the delegates is actually the workforce manager for Norwich City. And he's asked to come along because he specifically wants to approach female coaches to work with Norwich City in their academy. That's a huge step forward, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. And, I think every player, athlete, person deserves the best quality experience of whatever sport, whatever they're doing in life. They deserve the best quality experience that it can be. And whether that's a male or a female coach, male or female mentor, whether it's a male or female manager, leader, is it the best that they can have? And it sounds like his eyes were opened up to say, at this point, this is what we need at our football club. Hopefully that's the answer that he'll give. But, you know, the best quality experience is the best person looking after the athletes and the people. And gender doesn't come into that for me. It is who is the best person. And I think there's, you know, age range is important, sort of under 8s, under 9s, under 10s. It's having that empathy and that, as Paula was saying about when you're a parent, you learn those skills. There's no book that tells you how to be a mum. But what there is as you make mistakes along the way, and you'll pick things up and you'll drop things down, and you'll kind of forget things, and you'll remember them 10 years down the line, because that's what motherhood does to you. It makes you lose your memory as well. But yeah, so it's having those, you know, totally agree with everything that everybody's saying on here about those social skills and those empathy skills. And I think that's something that, I think, you know, without putting words in his mouth, that's what I'd like to hear from him, is that I see the value of having the right coach. If it's a female coach working with my players at under 8 or under 18, I see the value of having that female coach with them, because this is what she will bring them. And it might, and she'll have the you know, whoever they employ will have the right qualifications, but they will be able to enhance those qualifications with a real life skills that are very much suited to the age groups that female coaches will have.
Paula, UK Sport asked 37 female coaches who were working with funded athletes as part of the World Class programme, and asked them what were the main factors that made their coaching journey difficult. And one of them was, they said, was HR and recruitment practices. They said that very few recruitment panels had women on them. It was almost like this mindset about recruiting in your own image, and as the people who were interviewing were mostly middle-aged white men, that sort of stopped, that was a problem there. And also they said that, you mentioned about your having the children and how difficult it is. They also mentioned that maternity and childcare policies were vague.
Very, very vague, yeah. I think, I was just trying to think back when I got interviewed, they were white, middle-aged men. And I'm trying to think, they're not the best places. I think they're trying. I do believe they're trying. But I think also we have to realise that, you know, women that go into high-performance coaching is still a very small minority. You know, you'll find lots of women doing different areas in sport, but in terms of the actual face of the sport and the high performance, and it's very few. And the difficulty is, I always think you need to see somebody who looks like you. I remember my son went to a school, and when I went to the school, I walked in the school. It was a lovely little school, but it was going to be the only black child there. So I had the option, do I make my child a trailblazer in this school? Nobody looks like him. Or do I look elsewhere? I decided to do elsewhere because I needed to make myself comfortable. So you need to know somebody that looks like you. You know, so you walk into a club, and if you walk into a room, as Marieanne said, if there's nobody that looks like you, straight away you do feel uncomfortable. And it takes a strong person to just ignore that. And as Marieanne said, you know, you're trying to think, well, actually, I have got some skill sets that are going to be useful. I can share knowledge. But you have to be a certain individual to be able to do that. And if you haven't, I've got to be quite honest, if I didn't have 20 years in the sport, I think I'll find it really difficult. I think the fact that I have had 20 years in the sport, that I had been travelling, I had known all these coaches, definitely made it easier in one respect. Makes it easier. You do get into the door. The downside is that they expect you to know everything when you get into the door, and they're quite quick to judge if you don't know the answer. So I think there is a difficulty. I was actually involved in that, and with Liz Nichol, where we've all gathered for the last 3 years, about how we can make it easier. And then one thing we actually all notice, every year the numbers entering that meeting of last is grown. So by default, just talking about it and just putting it in people's minds is actually making an impression. So I think just keep talking about it and people start picking up. And generally, like, I always use this tactic with my partner. If I want him to do something, I always make him think like it's his idea. Whether it's not. So I will say something and try and make him think it's his idea. And then he'll come back the next day and say, Paula, what about this? And I go, great. So it's kind of that slow drip, which is slightly annoying, but it's quite effective sometimes. So I think so. The fact that we keep talking about it, I think it's on people's radar. I think nobody wants to look different. Every governing body wants to be the one that said, look at us, you know, look across the board. We've got young and old, we've got black and white, we've got male and female. So I think it's definitely on the radar, and I think that's a real positive.
Salma, when you hear this about high performance coaches, have you an ambition to be one, and does that sort of make you think, oh, perhaps it's going to be a little tricky?
I can say that from performing at a high level. I mean, I've said my highlights playing at Lords, you know, it's something that not everyone has a chance to do in a lifetime. As a role model or somebody who's performed at such a level, yes, you want to be a coach and you want to push forward and get other people involved, and it's not just about myself, it's giving back to the community. So yes, I definitely want to see the next best, you know, cricketer, the girls coming forward. You've got the England side, they went out and they performed at the T20, and you want to push more and more girls, and there's a lot of academy girls coming forward, and I've had a lot of youngsters come up to me and say, look, we want some one-to-one coaching, and I've been privileged to say, okay, I'm going to push you as far as I can, and I've got them into county trials. I mean, there was a young boy and he's quite keen, and you know, he's quite talented, and I've pushed him as far as getting into IPL, and he's going to go and play in India very soon. So it's nice to see that sometimes it's nice to work in the background and actually push someone forward and say, you know what, now let them it's their turn to go forward. And you don't realize, I mean, it's by playing and coaching myself, I've actually opened doors for my siblings, my two younger sisters. One of them actually played for 11-a-side football, and she played for a Premier side, and that's not something you talk about every day. And my other younger sisters played county cricket. So yes, it's opened doors for my family, it's opened doors for a lot of Asian girls and the community basically. Yes, we definitely want to see more coaches and push that forward.
Marieanne, I now sit on the FA Women's Football Board, and I know at the last board meeting I told the new Chief Executive, Martin Glenn, about a wonderful woman who applied for a job at the FA, and she got it, and because she had children and because there was a lot of weekend working, she just asked to work one day from home. And this was a couple of years ago now, and she was told no by the FA's HR department and subsequently didn't take the job. And so the FA lost a wonderful person. Now, Martin Glenn has assured me that that won't happen under his watch.
Yeah.
But have you found that in your travels that it is difficult, these HR practices?
If I'm honest, I don't get involved in the HR practices because I like to think that I see things as individual needs. And you know, we've got players in our squad, you know, player in our squad who's got kids. You know, she's got three sons, so she's away from home a lot. How can we best support her? You know, sometimes it's about ensuring that, you know, there is downtime for her when she's ready to Skype her kids when you're in Canada, and you know, it might be just as we're going to get on the coach because of the time difference. You have to allow that time. You have to make sure that, you know, an unhappy player is not going to perform for you. An unhappy employee is not going to work for you. So without having the HR policies, my own values say, if you treat people right and you make them feel part of what you're doing, they'll come along with you. And as long as they feel that they're not being compromised in any way. I mean, I'm a parent myself, and my daughter's 20 this year. And again, my family was so supportive that I could then go away with England. And I asked for some childcare help whilst I was away, because she would then go into nursery for more days than would normally happen. And I was told no. You know, it's your choice to go away and play for your country. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. I've asked the question. I don't want to not play for my country, but it would be nice to have that support. And I think from that experience for me to now with our player that we will, reasonable adjustment, isn't it? If you've got, any of our players have got kids or anything that's on their minds, that's the most important thing. Happy players make a better squad.
Paula, mentoring. I hear mentoring a lot and about how that can help women. Is that something that you believe in?
Absolutely, yeah. And, I was fortunate because my coach mentored me. So he was always supportive. I could always go back to him. And I'm now mentoring 2 people. One's a female and one's a male. So I definitely believe it's just that informal learning, and it's nice to have somebody just to have a conversation with, because I don't think there's any problem that's not been had, and if you speak to somebody, they will give you an idea how you can overcome it rather than you just worrying about an issue. So I've been mentored quite a lot. I'm currently being mentored. I'm on the UK Sport Elite programme, so I've got mentors galore at the moment. So it's very interesting, and I'm mentoring others as well. So I actually do think it's good, and especially have a good relationship with your mentor, then it's then really a real positive rather than negative. But yeah, I definitely do believe in mentoring.
And it's interesting, I mentioned the tennis coach, Holly Bees, who's been working with Dr. Leanne Norman with her research. And she's had a mentor through Leanne's work. And she said the best thing about him was that he didn't look at her gender. He just saw her as another coach. And that's really
important, yeah.
Just that gender neutral approach.
Absolutely. But I think it does come back. I mean, I was going to jump in on what Marieanne said about, working from home. But a story is that I always protect 2 days a week, because as a mother, I need to feel that I'm actually mothering. So I've always, when I got the job, because it was in Birmingham, it was always that Thursdays and Fridays I work from home. And that fortunately they agree to that, because, when you've got children, you still have to, everybody juggles. There's no different from my job to anybody else's job. But the difficulty is that we do travel so much. And you do have, I've had lots of crises, questioning myself. I've sat down with my boys and asked them, have I been a good mother? I mean, the reality is they're going to say yes, because obviously I'm feeding them and clothing them, but they do say yes a lot. But you question yourself. And I think, I don't know about, I'm fortunate I've got somebody who can leave, but men may do exactly the same. But when I'm away for a month, which I know I'm going to be in Rio, I'm thinking, okay, are they okay? And I don't know, as a woman, you do feel that you should be doing everything. And I think now I don't, because I think it's ridiculous. The child's got 2 parents, so he can stay with his father. His father's going to look after him. So, but it does take a long time. That it's not easy. And I think that, we have to start feeling guilty. I mean, I'm saying this and I felt guilt all my life, because it's just, you always, and it's a horrendous feeling, because you want to be like, I've missed sports days, I've missed parents' evening, I've missed weddings, I miss funerals, which is fine. And, christenings, you just miss so much. As a player, I'm sure you did exactly the same. It is so difficult. And, I'm telling you have to be very honest with women who say they want to do high performance. You have to, really balance everything. And there is big sacrifices. But, you've just got to take a step back and actually work out what is the worst that can happen. So I Skyped my son, and, when I was in Canada and he cried, I felt horrendous. But I thought, you know what, he's going to be fine. And when I saw him toddling off, and he was fine, So women are just notoriously bad at that, notoriously bad, which then puts a barrier in front of us. I need to say that.
Yeah. What's come in there, I think, as well, is that we sometimes give ourselves a hard time.
Absolutely.
Because we feel that we are the matriarch of the family. And I think what we're helping I've got a daughter and you've got boys, but what we're helping to do is to show them that life is out there to be grabbed, and the opportunities that are coming our way, we want them to have. And if they've got a strong, independent, feel for life, then I think we should value the things that you've given your kids, because that's the way you want to bring your kids up, to be good people, to not see gender, not see challenges, but to embrace life and embrace everybody and embrace the differences. And I think sometimes we sell ourselves a little bit short because we do feel guilty about being away. But on the plus side, when you come back, you spend so much quality time with your kids and so much quality time with your family that you want to go away again to have that quality time again. You know what I mean? But, you know, never underestimate that the way you bring your kids up and the values that you have, they will become good people and good members of society.
Selma, you've already touched on how you use sport to open doors for other issues that young girls and women can talk to you about. So you've actually been mentoring them with their sport, but also other issues in the community.
Yes, just by talking to them, just helping them with their confidence, and like the girls were saying about how balancing with life. And yeah, I've spent a lot of time away from my family, and being an Asian girl, it's quite difficult because I've had comments other family members actually make to my family and say, "Oh, your daughter should be at college, or is she going to think about her education, or is she going to get married?" And I made sure that I will take time out for my sports, for my passion, and I will prove it to them that I will still go to university. I will complete my education, and I can say that, look, I will work and I will still do something for myself, but I want to do something different, not that, you know, every day you just expect the same thing from a Asian girl. And I remember just before getting married to my husband, I said, "Are you going to allow me to play cricket?" And he was like, "Yeah, why not?" But it's quite difficult. You don't realise the impact you have on others or the obstacles that you have to face. And when you realise that you have achieved something and you've achieved something that's completely different, when you have other girls actually approach you and they say, "Look, you know, I've actually mentioned you to my parents today, and I've said, look, she's doing something, and she's a nurse as well, and she's working and she's playing her sports." My parents are saying, actually, you know what, we want our daughter to be like her, and if she can do it, yes, we want her to be on the right track. And it's like tomorrow for us to have our kids, we want them to be in a place where they're going to be focused with their life. They will have a target to achieve, and you know, they want to live their life to their fullest and enjoy it as well, and do something for the time being and make something of yourself as well.
And that inspiration that you give to girls and women, you've been recognised for at the Asian Cricket Awards.
I have. I mean, it was quite nice. I mean, the first year I won the Women in Cricket Award, and the second time round I was only there as an ambassador, and I thought, okay, I'm going to be presenting an award to someone, and then all of a sudden I got picked out as an inspirational award, and I didn't realise, you know, I've actually have inspired a lot of people, because I just remember being on the board, on the panel, actually putting girls' names forward to saying they deserve an award. And you know, it's nice to be recognised, and nice that sometimes you can't do everything all the time, but still, you know, even that short step that you've taken a risk in your life, you've done something different, you've gone away and sacrificed that time from your family, and today, you know, you're talked about because you've done it, and now that it's been done, it's history has been made. So it's nice, and it's good feeling to be proud of.
Marieanne, I also sit on the FA's Inclusion Advisory Board. And
You do a lot of sitting.
because you have to try and make a difference, don't you? I say to everybody, if you get a chance to sit on a board and make it more diverse, then please do go for it, because it's very rewarding, and particularly this is rewarding. We said to the head of coaches at the FA, we want you to do a Rooney Rule with the recruitment, but not just have a diverse candidate on the selection, but also, if they don't get the job, then to choose someone to be actually mentored. And we've just been told by Dr. Wayne Allison that there's a mentoring program. They've taken one female coach and a male coach, and they're going to be mentored for a whole year at St George's Park. That's real progress, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and we're in the process at the moment of shortlisting and getting those people into place. And I think we're not. I think the most important thing, again, and I talk a lot about people and the value of people, is they have every opportunity. We will give every opportunity to the right people to show commitment, that show the values and want to be part of the organisation, but part of the working world. And it's such an exciting time because we're, for the first time we're becoming really diverse. And you're talking about sitting on various different boards. But the FA are really embracing now, embracing more female coaches, embracing the diversity, and there's still a lot of work to do, but to actually, as you said, to make step changes is really important, and to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to be the person that they want to be, doing the things that they want to do. I think that's fantastic, and long may it continue and grow and get even better. And that we don't even have to talk about it eventually, it's just the norm. That's what we're looking for, isn't it?
Absolutely. Some of you may know that the first International Federation of Women in Leadership Forum was held in Lausanne recently, and it had the IOC members there, national federations, national Olympic committees, and they came up with some points that they wanted to be enshrined in the actions. And one of them, Paula, was training for male leaders around gender equity. What do you think about that one?
Disappointing that it should even be highlighted, to be quite honest. Why would you highlight it as an issue? It should be just ingrained. So disappointing that they've highlighted it. Positive, at least to know now. Once it's there, once you see 5 strategies, then they can't ignore it. But yes, my first instinct is disappointing that it's actually been highlighted. You would think that they want to train the best people, and there's going to be really good women, I'm sure, in all those organisations. So it's positive, but slightly negative.
Salma, do you face some issues? You mentioned that when you've gone for the funding, have you had other problems when you've tried to explain to men what you're trying to do? Do you think they understand what you're trying to do in your community?
I think, a lot of people still turn around and say, well, women, do they play sports? Or especially when you tell them, look, I've played cricket, and they're like, oh, really? Okay, let's play a cricket match and I can hit you for 6. And these are the common, comments that they would make. And it's so difficult. I think that's a point that, just frustrates you, where there's a lot of people, men will always think that they are better than women on the sporting stage. But I think I challenged myself when I did walk into the men's team I just did it because I thought, if I can play this sport, I can play at any level, and it doesn't matter if it's a men's or a female side. And when I did walk into the changing rooms and I got myself set up for the side, I went out to play on the field, and it wasn't so much my team was actually worried about me being a girl and playing. It was the opposition saying, oh, look, there's a girl playing and she's going to bowl to me now. And yeah, I can hit her. I can hit her out the park easily. But I that's when I actually gained my respect from the men's side. And they said, you're a valuable player because there's 11 of us on the pitch and you're as important as anyone else that's playing for the team. So I think I had to learn the hard way, and that's where I just need to highlight for other people that if you want to play the sport, don't let anyone stop you and just keep going, just enjoy what you do, and if that makes you stand out, just carry on.
Marieanne, finally, I know that on the FA, they've given the FA councillors, who I think have a mean age of 66, white males, I think they've given them some diversity training. Do you think they actually understand that it can bring benefits? In lots of financial studies on commercial boards, when you have a diverse board, they are far more profitable, I think 10% more profitable. At the BBC, we want to be more diverse because we represent our audience, but also our programming will be better. But do you think those 66-year-olds on the FA Council understand that?
I think that...
No pressure there.
It's being taped.
And then the employers.
As you said there, with the BBC about what is your audience and who are the people playing football now? You look at the world, or certainly in England with our national income. who are playing football now. There's a greater number than ever before of women playing football. There's a greater number ever before of women becoming coaches, women referees, walking football. So, you know, over 55s football. So our society is saying to us, we need to be diverse. You need to reflect by the people that are on the board, need to reflect society. So for them to have some diversity training and to have more and more of a recognition of what is actually happening in football, I think that's something that will start to be embraced, you know, because the boards are starting to be a little bit more diverse, like yourself coming on, which is fantastic. And, you know, so there will be more voices, more challenges, and certainly more of a representation of society in general that is playing football these days and playing sport in general, but certainly within ours. So will they grasp it? They will eventually.
My name's Catherine Baker. I'm the founder of Sport and Beyond. And Shelley, you'll be pleased, I'm also a board member on a national governing body. Really interesting discussion, thank you. And one of the clear themes that came out from this evening was around the behavioural side and emotional intelligence. As a business, we run emotional intelligence workshops in the corporate world, but have been heartened to see that there's an increasing interest among coaches and coach education bodies. The question I have is about whether you think that side of things is more important at the high performance level, or whether you think it's more important at the participation level, or through. And I guess the context for that, Eddie Jones, one of his first interviews when he was appointed coach, said there were he was asked the three things that he felt made a difference as a coach, and he said knowledge, enthusiasm, and the ability to manage people. So that behavioural side. Obviously, we've got Sarah Milner from Reach this evening, very much about the activator and the participatory side, and I think the emotional intelligence side is important then. But from your vast experience, do you think it's something that's important all the way through, or more important at particular levels?
I think it's important at all levels, because certainly with us, in terms of from personal experience, when we were in Canada last year, we did a lot of work around being a group, being together as a group, because when you're in a World Cup finals, the biggest derailer is selection. So for players to understand what their value was, whether they were a starter, a finisher or a supporter, they had to understand what their value was. And once they embraced it, the overriding pictures from the World Cup was the team and it was the group. So at an elite level, it is so important for me to go into tournaments with the most together team, whatever that looks like. And the work we did beforehand with our team development group was phenomenal in our success. And I think once it's seen as something that is so important at elite level, it certainly needs to drip down into other levels, because you don't want to get to a senior team and suddenly be exposed to it. If you're exposed to it as you grow and as you're part of different squads, and you know, then it becomes again the norm. And being together as a squad is just seen as what's important, as well as what happens on the pitch. Yeah. The intensity of 7 weeks in Canada, with the ups and downs, and I don't know if people saw the semi-final when we lost to Japan in those circumstances. We went on to beat Germany 1-0, and the biggest factor of that was the strength of the squad, was the strength of the team being together, and their will to support each other throughout that testing time, to then go on and make history by beating Germany for the first time. So I think it's vitally important that somebody sets it out as a role modelling. Yeah. I think we've done that now, and then we need to start dripping it down so that it becomes part of the development of our players, the emotional side.
Rather than having it that there and the rest of the coaching.
Oh, it's a huge part of it. It's ingrained. It should be entwined. Yeah.
That's really interesting, Marieanne, you said that, because if you look back to Italia 90, when the men's team were beaten in the semi-finals, they then went into the fourth playoff with Italy, and they were completely gutted, and they didn't look at that match. They just wanted to go home, and yet actually. So they were beaten and came fourth. Yeah. But your mindset that you'd created by that emotional intelligence within the Lionesses actually meant, no, we're going to go, and to be third in the world is a huge achievement.
Oh, definitely. And we had the bonus of we're playing Germany. Come on. Yeah. But also it was we ripped up the plan. After that game against Japan, we ripped up the plan, because you know, you're looking at it and you're going, what do these players need at this moment? And it wasn't a training session. It wasn't to be on the grass. It was their families. It was their friends. It was the staff to be good people around them. And we had a team meeting. And what we did was, I'll tell you my secrets now, but we had, I had to make the sacrifice of going out the night before this team meeting and going to all the different local hostilleries to find all the families and just say, look, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, can you come to the hotel? Just meet here and we'll sneak you into the room. So the players were in their various rooms and we snuck all the families and friends into the meeting room. So when the players came in after, you know, the couple of days after the Japan game, you could see that you knew you had to do something different. And they walked in and the families, the parents, I'm welling up already now, parents, partners, siblings were all in the room and just applauded them in. And as soon as you saw that, you saw the girls just lift and go, we have got a real reason now to win this game for each other, for the staff, our families that have come all this way out, and all the messages that we'd got from home. So not only was the beating Germany, it was that togetherness and having those people around them and the support that was in there. So that was a massive part of that result as well.
And Marieanne, I know you've spoken before about how Mark Sampson sometimes rings you up at 2 o'clock in the morning with his new game plan. Yeah. But what a wonderful testimony that you're a man and a woman, and you're leading, you know, you led the Lionesses to bronze.
Yeah, and, you know, a lot of people say about should it be a male coach leading the women's team. At this moment in time, it's the right appointment. And we work really well together. And, you know, he does ring me at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, what do you think of this? And I'm like, go to sleep, tell me tomorrow. Well, the first thing I do is check it's not my daughter on a night out going, can you pick me up? But it is important, that relationship. And, you know, the relationship between the people that work together, like head coach, assistant coach, you know, our goalkeeper coach, but in any sport, it has to be a good relationship because otherwise it festers down to the players. So you have to get to know each other and understand that the 2 o'clock phone calls have started to cease now a little bit more. But also, when you don't spend time together all the time, you have to be in a really good place to be able to spend 7 weeks with people and not want to strangle them, you know. So it's really important about those building relationships.
Yeah. And Paula, Catherine's question about emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as an individual sport, so we've got approximately 45, 50 athletes. But I actually think it is critical, definitely from a coaching perspective, when you've got youngsters. I think, you know, if they get a negative response, then they're not likely to come back again. So it's just being aware, you know, those first contacts are really important. And obviously, very similar to what Marieanne says, you know, we've got like to manage 50 individuals, bearing in mind they're not all going to win. Bearing in mind some are going to have some big ups, some are going to have some great performances, some are not going to have some great performances. You know, staff are going to get tired because the long days is from 7 a.m. till midnight most days, and it's we have to just be understand. So I have the same face. So whether a person wins or they lose, when they come through, they'll get the same reception from me. So I say to the staff, we have to remember, you know, as some people are going to be really happy, some people are going to be really, really disappointed. And it's just managing that, which is sometimes really tricky and really difficult. But it's critical, and it's not just critical for the athletes, it's critical for the staff. One of my motto is like talk to each other, not about each other. You know, because as Marieanne says, it's really quick. You know, when people are tired, things can go wrong really, really quickly. And it's just be able to just check that and say, actually, what am I here for? It's not about us, it's about the athletes. So just remembering what your role is, and actually just being aware what people, you know, people's positions are, and, you know, these ups and downs with all these athletes coming in and out. You just got to manage that and just be, you know, just empathise. You know, if you see somebody coming with you crying, don't have a smile on your face. You know, so you deal with what comes in front of you and you manage that. But it is critical I think from grassroots right to the top.
I think we've got time for one more question.
Nice and easy in the middle. Just your name and where you're from.
John.
Hi everyone, I'm Nikki Clark from Leeds Beckett University. Thank you everybody for sharing your experiences. It's been fascinating so far. My question is, what would be your one key piece of advice to a young aspiring female coach, some of which I know we have in the room with us, who are maybe have chosen to follow the route of a sports coach as a career as opposed to coming through the playing route? So what's your one key piece of advice?
Should we ask Salma, because she's come through a slightly different route?
I just say never give up, and well done for even thinking about becoming a coach, because you're the backbone of that player, of that team. You are going to make that difference. It means a lot more to you than it means for the whole team. I think we've got a coach, and he's a father of one of the girls that plays on the cricket side, and he's umpiring the whole day. And when we look at his face, and all day, he's got steam coming through his ears because he's expecting so much from us. And it's nice how we've become a family, and how he supports us, and how much it means to him. And it's time out that he takes for us, the commitment, and it doesn't get paid for it, but it means a lot. And when you have a really good coach and you have someone to look up to, it makes all that difference to say, actually, yes, this is the person that we are going to perform for today.
Paula?
I'm still thinking.
That's okay, Marieanne.
I think for me it's never underestimate the power of a smile and a good word for people, because we're so good at telling people what we do wrong. Sometimes we forget to tell them what they do right, and you do it in a way where your body says exactly the same as what your mouth is saying. So that for me is, never underestimate the power of a good word and a smile.
Well, thank you to our panel, to Paula, Salma and Marieanne, and to a great audience too. Thank you and good night.